What's up, my powerful leader? Welcome into the Powerful Online Leadership Podcast. And today, if you've ever wondered what it's like to have 25,000 followers and how that could possibly change and grow your business, maybe you've been wanting to shift identities, maybe feeling like you've been stuck in one place, wanting to transition into talking about new things. Maybe you even wondered how to be fully authentically yourself and how that could help the business. Well, you are in luck because today I have my good friend Tyler Khaleesi on the podcast, and he's grown his Instagram to over 25,000 followers. He has traditionally been a guy, physical therapist, lifting a lot of big weights, has transitioned into more of a runner and is running the New York City Marathon, has been showing a lot of that on his content and the worries that might come with changing identities from a lifter to a runner, and also just sharing more of himself as a person, not just the physical therapist, but more of why he's running the New York City Marathon and all these other bits of what makes Tyler Tyler. And all of this stuff has been a big contribution to him growing his business. And if you want to learn exactly how he's been able to incorporate all of those things into growing his business, signing on more clients, making more money, all that good stuff, then you're going to love today's episode. So without further ado, here is Tyler Khaleesi. Tyler, welcome to the podcast, dude. I'm super hyped for this conversation. You're someone I feel like I've known for like a decade.
Yeah,
I don't know what it is, but I was like driving to your place this morning. I'm like, I fucking love Tyler. I don't know what it is, but I feel like we've known each other forever. And then we go on this half marathon run before this podcast, and we're just talking. No pauses between conversation. We're off on 15 million tangents. I'm like, for me, those are some of the most energizing conversations and the people I like to hang around most with, because yeah, there's just that energy, right? You can feel it, and it's so fun.
Yeah, I think, we did kind of know each other for a little bit longer than
It's true.
I've lived here. True Coach brought up, remember this? True Coach brought up a little like thing at the top, a little banner that said like something about marketing. Learn how to market yourself. And it was like Matthew Allen. And I was like, let me see what this dude's about. So I followed you, and I was like, I'm not going to sign up yet. I'm just going to kind of get his vibes first. Long story short, I didn't end up signing up. But then I was moving to Denver and I saw one of your posts that you lived out here, and I was like, no fucking way, it's going to be great. So yeah, then we hung out and we vibed. I think we have a lot of the same energy, but no one can match your energy truly, if I'm being honest with myself. But
it doesn't need to be matched. Everyone should just be their own energy.
Yeah.
I remember, it's so funny because I remember that we were talking about this like last time we hung out. I was like, I don't know if this was you, but there was a guy who had like, I don't know, like 8,000 followers, 8,000 followers maybe, which is more than me. And you followed me. And again, I didn't remember it was you. And I assumed it was from this True Coach thing. I was like, oh, he probably saw my thing. Maybe he's signing up. And this was in the phase where immediately I would DM everybody who followed me. So I DM'd you. I'm like, what's up, dude? Whatever I said. And you're like, yeah, I saw you had the True Coach thing. I'm checking you out before I sign up. And I'm like, who the fuck is this guy? 7,000 followers. And then I started making up the story. I'm like, this guy's a douche. He thinks he's better than me. Your Instagram was actually sick because you had the 3 pin posts at the top.
Oh, they all matched.
They like flowed into each other, like, a little mosaic, little portrait thing or whatever. It was like, who I am. And then half your body, stretched into the next photo that was like, what I do and how I help and whatever. I was like, that's actually really nice. And I was like, maybe I should have something like that. So you actually influenced me in that way. But yeah, I remember making up the story of like, who does this guy think he is?
I think I get that a lot, and I don't know what it is. I have been told that I'm like strong when I come on with folks. But I have had many people tell me like, yeah, I kind of thought you were going to be a douche. Maybe it's like, I don't know, I wear these hats or something like that. But I think I'm just like a strong, outgoing, somewhat type of person. I find more comfort there than I do like being quiet. Maybe there's some things I got to unpack there. But yeah, the irony of you looking at my banner, we'll call it, on Instagram, is now if you look at my banner, there is a post on my 3-pin post that is almost identical to yours, because a couple months ago I looked at yours and I was like, ooh, that's a nice one.
What is it?
The one that's on the top right of your 3-pin post.
Yeah.
It's a swipe, carousal. It's like, are you
and
doing
so
this?
What happens when you master your messaging?
Yeah.
And then it's endless slides of my clients being like 10K a month and I'm
so
confident.
I have one now that says, what happens when you stop trying random Instagram exercises and get on a plan that's designed for you? And then it's a bunch of testimonials like, oh, my shoulder doesn't hurt anymore and whatever.
Dude, I love those. It's like everybody wants to go viral, but nobody wants to convert the clients they already have or convert the followers they already have to clients. I'm like, these are the types of posts that convert clients.
Yeah.
Social proof isn't always the most viral stuff. It can be if you have like before and after like weight loss photo, or whatever. But you want to make content that's for the person that's on the other side of the phone being like, I think I want to work with Tyler, but like there's one thing holding me back, and then if you speak directly to that person, probably not the reel or the carousel that gets the most likes and stuff, but that one person sees it and goes, all right, I'm in. Let's fucking go.
Yeah. I think for a long time, I was like chasing the following, chasing the engagement. I really wanted to get to 5K followers. I really wanted to get to 10,000 followers. I feel like 10,000 is kind of like the thing. You're like, oh, I'm a little bit more legit.
Yeah.
And you think when you get to 10,000 or 20,000 or 25,000 that like your business is going to like have this massive eruption in leads and clients. And I think to some degree there is an increase in people who reach out to you and engage with you and maybe fill out your application. But for a long time, I had this notion that if I can just get to X amount of followers, then I will just have this massive wait list of people who filled out the application to work with me. And clearly that's not correct. But we were talking a little bit about when we were running was like, yeah, you've kind of hit this 26,000 follower realm and it's really slowed down. I think there's two reasons. One, I care less about posting as frequently. Right now I'm in a space where I'm posting maybe once every 3 to 4 days. And there's sometimes I post once a week because the other things that I'm doing are like converting more than just posting every day. It started kind of back when we were on another run and you were like, what do you think you need to do to just get one more client? Like out of the 24,000 at that time followers that you have, what do you need to do to get one more client? And I was like, I don't know. I wasn't really in the mood to listen to you talk about that stuff at that moment, but you're always on.
I think you said that, but I was like, like, what would you do to get a client?
And you were like, you already post 5 to 7 days a week. So what are you going to do? Do 9 posts a week?
Well, actually, wasn't that the question where you're like, I was like, how often are you posting? You're like 7 to 9 posts a week. And I was like, okay, you have 25,000 followers. Like, do you need to post more? Is that going to get you more clients? Is it working? Or like, what could you do to actually get one of these 25,000 people to turn into a client?
Yeah. And that kind of started, like you always think about that. But like when someone says it to you or forces you to say it, it really brings it to the forefront of your brain. So that combined with, I went through this phase maybe a month ago where I got really cognizant of how much I was consuming on social media. So at that time I had TikTok, I had YouTube. So I was looking at YouTube shorts. Obviously I had Instagram. And I felt like my consumption of social media was starting to affect my production of social content, but also my like job as a coach and a physical therapist. It was also affecting like my mood because I was seeing other people who doing what I do, and it kind of messes with your head like, oh, I should be doing that, or look how successful they are. And some of these algorithms are incredibly strong. YouTube's algorithm is ridiculous. Like Instagram's is strong, TikTok's is decently strong, but they purposely push content that you haven't seen. But YouTube's, if you like watch one thing, like I watched one Jordan Peterson short, or one Joe Rogan short, or one Neil deGrasse Tyson short, which I love his stuff. But as soon as I listened to one thing from him, Instagram was pushing like 7 different universal conspiracy theories about like aliens and stuff.
It's actually, this is almost doesn't matter, but I've been on YouTube Shorts a little bit more now because I'm getting on YouTube. I've gotten on YouTube. It's almost like too much for like, I liked one John Mayer thing and now I only get like John Mayer about his guitar. And I'm like, but I keep liking him because I'm like, I kind of like John Mayer a lot. And so it's like, it's John Mayer. It's this one stand-up comedian. I don't even know his name, but he keeps coming up. He's hilarious.
Yeah.
And it's like, those are the only 3 things I get. And like Key and Peele. And I'm like, can I get some other shit going on
you
here?
end up watching a lot of it,
For
right?
sure. Yeah.
So aside from me realizing like maybe I am just posting more than I actually need to, like maybe I'm leaning into creating content in an effort for that to be like the main and only thing that generates leads for me. And then you add in this layer of me feeling like I was just consuming too much. And I kind of got burnt out. Like I purposefully stopped posting as frequently. And I unfollowed like 250 people out of like the 600 that I was following. I deleted TikTok, I deleted YouTube, and nothing changed really. Like my lead management system, how many leads I was working with, people that were filling out forms or messaging me, like that stuff didn't change because I have still been doing the other things. I've still been writing newsletters, emailing or messaging people who follow me, messaging people who comment on my stuff. And it made me realize like I don't need more followers at 25,000. And honestly, I probably didn't need more followers when I had 5,000. I just needed to work on the people that were already there. I've had a lot of people ask me like, "Oh, you have 25,000 followers," which by no means is impressive compared to some people. But to some people who don't have that, it's like, "Holy cow, you're super famous, right?"
Mm-hmm.
They're like, "How has it changed your business?" And I'm like, "It really hasn't." When it initially happened, when that happens, I know that now that I have 25,000, it's going to take 6 months for me to build trust with 200 of them.
Mm-hmm.
And then after I've built trust with 200 of them, it's going to take 3 more months for 20 out of those 200 to really feel like I'm resonating with what their problem is. And then it's going to take another 2 months for us conversing as leads for them to work with me. So like I have 30 remote clients. I have 25,000 followers. I don't know what the percentage is there, but it's less than 0.1% probably.
Yeah. I love that you're sharing this because I was like, I can imagine my listeners want to know, right? Probably sitting over there listening like, tell me, how did you get to 25,000 followers?
Yeah.
I don't want to ask that question because you just said it doesn't fucking help.
We'll tell them and it'll make them realize how little it matters.
Yeah. And there's plenty of people who are teaching that. I am on the side of like, you have people who buy from you right now and you're not focused on that. So you're making content, right? You're hunting down trending audios. You're doing all this shit to try and go viral so you get this influx of followers. And then like you say, yeah, they don't buy anything. And think about your experience. If there's a new listener who now goes to follow you after this podcast and you're a physical therapist and they have pain, right? They're not just going to sign up with you immediately. They're going to be like, cool, I learned a little bit about him in Matt's podcast. Let's experience more of him on Instagram, right? And like you said, it takes X amount of time to build that trust with this new follower until they become a client. So what would rather hear from you is, what is that process like then of building that trust?
I think I've kind of broken down my content creation into like 3 areas. The first one is like actually posting stuff that's valuable to people, like, hey, this movement can help you do this, right? So like sticky content that someone can always use for themselves, they can share it with other people. Great. This is what I do. I teach people how to move better and how to feel better.
Which I love. I'll double click on that because it's like, that stuff's good.
Yeah.
And I imagine I'm excited to hear the other 2 things you're going to say because we need all of this stuff. The goal is that when somebody's in the gym and their knee hurts and they just watched your video 2 days ago on how to get a knee pain, do these 3 exercises, now they think of you. Now you're top of mind. So how can we be more top of mind? And that's one great way to do that is give them shit that works. And I just had someone who's in my membership. She's like, I do a content review, and she did this thing about like accumulating wealth. And I'm like, you didn't teach anything. There's no value in this at all. You just like said words. I'm like, I am no better off because of this. You didn't teach me how to generate wealth. You just said, you should be generating wealth. It's like, thanks, I fucking know that.
Yeah.
That's not, and she, super receptive to learning was like, oh, damn, kind of hurt for a second, but like, I see how I wasn't actually giving value. And so it's like, truly give value so that your client experiences that problem. They think of your tip, they try it, it works, they associate you with the win. I want fucking more.
Yeah, I mean, I think we have to recognize that like in this world of social media, like we do need to create content that is consumable, tryable, shareable. Like we need that, right? We have to create reach, we have to get followers. Like that's an inevitable thing. So creating valuable content is a great way to prove that you know what you're talking about.
Right.
Fine. That's the base level. Just get people to understand that you are the guy or the girl who knows what you're talking about in this realm. You develop an authority. But I think there's other layers that are needed to develop trust and really put yourself at the forefront of someone's mind. The second one, in my opinion, is like, here's how it's worked for other people, whether it's myself or the people I've worked with. Social proof, showing testimonials or showing yourself literally talking to another client online. Or for me, it's like maybe I'm showing myself dry needling someone or a conversation that I had with a client on, remotely. So that's another category. And I think it kind of fits into like, here's how to do the thing.
I hate. I can't think of any of your content, but I hate the way a lot of people do social proof or testimonial videos. It's so fucking boring.
Like, what do you mean?
Like a testimonial video would be like
I've
me
been
going on
working
camera and
with.
be like, I've been working with Tyler for 3 months, and I've been in back pain for my whole life, and working with him was wonderful, and
Yeah,
now
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
not in back pain. It's like no one like those are great for sales pages. Those are great for those people who are like on the verge of working with you. As far as content goes, like I don't think that's a good way to do it. Instead, you could tell the story of this guy. Mike came to me, back pain for 5 years, couldn't sit on the ground with his kid, his 1-year-old, and play with the blocks for more than 5 minutes because his back would flare up. So he was spending less time with his kid, and you tell that story, and it's like
There's
that's more engaged. And here's the one thing we focused on.
There's an emotional component.
Yeah.
Because that person that's listening is now putting themselves in Mike's shoes. It's like we're telling a story about Mike, but like Ashley, who's listening, is like, that is me. That is like
I did not tell him to say this.
Yeah, it's like Mike has back pain, but Ashley,
we find ourselves in other people's stories.
Yep. I mean,
what we do.
Like we've talked about this with like Lion King. I think it's
the
one
Lion
of your favorite examples.
Yeah.
Yeah. So those are two categories, and then one of the major categories that I've leaned into more is just showing more of my life. Not necessarily like, oh, here's my morning breakfast routine, but like just allowing myself to film more content and create content from things that I never thought would have been appropriate content for me as the train away from pain, rehab, strength training guy. Because I think, there's 1,000 physical therapists who are strong who help people work out of pain. But the reason someone is going to work with me, sure, maybe they think that I have really good corrective exercise selection. Maybe they like my training app. But like at the end of the day, it's because I made them feel something that someone else didn't make them feel. And the only way I can make someone else feel something is show them that I feel things. And the way I show people I feel things is by showing them what's going on in my life. Recently, I've had a really nice thing to hold on to, which is training for the marathon, because I have a intrinsic purpose around it. But by doing that, it's really expanded my "this is my life" category of my content, which is giving me more enjoyment around content. Like it brings it back to what Instagram was originally about. It was just like showing what you wanted to show, having this artistic feel to it. And it not only has it not had an effect on my following, building, and my client and lead management, it's made it better. Like I've become less of the guy who whose page you go to look for a movement to do for your knee or your elbow, and more of the guy whose page you go to or you share because I'm talking about stuff that helps you get out of pain that no one else is talking about or very little people are. Like I'm not telling you to do this movement. I'm telling you how to affect your life or how my life is affected by the things that I'm preaching, teaching, whatever.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. The video, I don't even remember what the video was about, which is kind of the funny thing about content. We typically don't remember what you say. We remember how you made people feel.
Yeah.
Right. And that's kind of what you're saying with that last part. There's that one video where you just like, it wasn't about this, but you just took a giant bite of an onion. And then what were you talking about in that video? I don't know, but I was like,
I think it was talking about some sort of stress management, like your sleep or like something like that.
Yeah.
But I knew part of that was very hardcore. This is just going to get engagement.
Yeah.
Like I know people are going to comment and be like, you crazy man, whatever. But like maybe that took someone one step closer to trusting me because they like saw me in a capacity that wasn't very coachy. They like laughed a little bit. Yeah. It moved me one click ahead.
Person.
Yeah, in their
like
brain.
In this gym, here's how,
And it's also like a part of me that I not necessarily proud to share, but like that's what this has been for me. This journey is like sharing things that I'm not necessarily proud of. Like I freaking love onions. I could eat an onion like an apple, and I did on that reel. Is that something I'm proud of? No. Is it something that's really hard to share? Oh gosh, people are gonna hate me for this. Also, no. But it's something that is part of me that maybe someone else out there would be like, dude, I do the same thing with cucumbers.
And this is what I love because it's like, this is shit that your friends would know about you.
Yeah.
Right. And this is what builds this trust of like, because I went in the DMs was like, was that actually an onion?
Yeah.
Like, yeah. You're like, I fucking love onions. I would eat that thing raw. I'm like, that's wild. And now it's like, yeah, those are those funny things you know about your friend. Comparably, like my brother can't eat onions because in his frat they made him eat raw onions as part of like a thing.
I have things like that. Yeah.
So he can't do onions now, and which is funny, And it's just like, okay, now I have this like connection to Tyler, that you're more than just this physical therapists all the time.
Yeah.
Even though the video, yeah, sure. And this is what I love to talk about, where it's like the video is about physical therapy, getting out of pain.
Yep.
But you incorporate a little bit of you into it.
Yeah.
And it got to be fun. And my question to you was like, you can see it in your smile. Like, how fun was that for you to do?
Yeah, it was freaking great.
You know?
I have found that there's 2 categories of content that do the best for me. One, the stuff that I didn't even plan. Like I've had a media team that cuts up content like you do, and like they make it and make this cool reel, and like this stuff does all right. But typically, this is not the general rule. But for me, the best stuff is the stuff that I thought about 7 minutes before I posted it, or that I filmed something random and posted it, or the stuff that has literally nothing to do with fitness or rehab. Like the stuff that is about Courtney or family or we did this hike or whatever is the stuff that does the craziest. And I'm like, I know that the answer is not necessarily just posting about nothing that has to do with content all the time, but there has to be some level of that is what I need more of. Like, why are people engaging more with the stuff that has nothing to do with fitness than they are with the stuff that has to do with fitness? And I think it's because of the emotional connection.
Yeah. And I mean, there's just really humanness to it.
Yeah.
And that's what people want, especially now. Like, I always talk about like this old way that people teach content, which was like give away all your best stuff and like talk about being a physical therapist forever and ever and ever. It's like that worked in 2015. Like, we're not there anymore. There's so many people online, like you said before. So what sets you apart from the guy who has 1 million followers and has more testimonials than you and has worked with NFL athletes? Well, I want to just hire him. Maybe price is a difference there, but like,
yeah,
no, it's like I choose Tyler because he's like hilarious. He eats a fucking onion. He's got 2 dogs. He's just deadlifted 500 pounds and is running a marathon. Like, these are these deeper things that are like, this dude's a badass. Like, I like him. I like the way he lives and shows up.
Yeah, it's like the content that gave them something to work on, or the content that was very educational, initially started their journey with following me. The content that had very little to do with fitness is what brought them closer to me. And then it's like it goes right back to now talking about educating them, and fitness is what gets them to actually work with me.
Yeah.
It's like you resonating with me and trusting me brought you to a sales call, and now we can go back to the nitty-gritty rehab training.
Yeah.
Like, you really care about that. Like, that's ultimately, you want to get better.
Yeah.
Right? But you wouldn't have gotten there unless you felt something good about what I could do for you, or working with me, or whatever.
Yeah. I had this line recently that was like, people buy things because they solve a problem, but they choose you because they're emotionally connected. Right? We buy things to solve a problem. So that's what I say. Be the only and obvious solution to that problem. You help people get out of pain. Simple as that. Now they choose you because of all these other things, right? Yep. Feeling that emotional connection. So I love this conversation. I want to shift a little bit. Just like we're on the run and talking about your business journey and business models and what that journey's been like for you as a traditional physical therapist. And there's also a deeper conversation of like, dude, when I think about broken fingers, if it's surgery on a finger because I dislocated it and broke it and then did nothing for a few weeks and then started to heal all mangled.
Gross.
So I had to get surgery and pins. I broke my foot when I was in high school, so my calf was like jello. I've been to a lot of physical therapy, shoulder problems, especially later in my life when I got super into fitness, became a personal trainer. Dude, I'd go into physical therapy offices and I'd be sitting there, I'm like, I'm smarter than you. I know more about the human body than you do, and you have a fucking like doctorate degree.
Yeah.
I'm like, fuck you. And then what happens? Don't get me going on this. What happens? They give you a fucking piece of paper that says 3x10. Everyone gets the same green band. Well, fucking external rotations, 3x10. That's my workout, right? Same as that guy with the shoulder injury. Same as the 90-year-old woman who hurt her shoulder. And I'm doing all the same shit as them. It would piss me off. And these fucking pieces of papers that I would get piss me off. So now that I got that out of my system.
I'm glad you did that. It was nice.
I went a different direction. I want to talk about your journey of business and this online space and stuff, but I'm also like, I want to give people an insight onto like, you're really good at what you do, and there's different approach you take. And we were talking in your kitchen about how it's just more than these corrective exercises.
Yeah.
There's a lot of mindset. I totally lost the
I'll just dig into
the sugar pill. What am I trying to say?
Yeah, like placebo
Effect. Yep. Yeah. So like, there's this like, you're really good at what you do, but you started somewhere. And I'm just going to rant for another second of like, what I want to help people instill in people is like, and maybe I'm curious for you of like doing it your way. How do you get really good at the thing that you really love doing and not just handing out these pieces of paper that everyone else is doing? And it's like, is it because you really love it? Why are you now teaching? Why are you in front of a room of 30 other PTs teaching them how to be better PTs? You know, like, how did that journey transpire? Because I think one of the best ways, especially when I think about marketing, is like you want to grow your business, be better. Like, be better at what you do. Stop regurgitating everything that this fucking person says, and say it in a different way. Say it in your way. Like, revolutionize. Like, you don't have to change the way, you know, like, if I take a simple example, like fitness, calories in, calories out. That's kind of how you lose weight.
Yeah.
You're eating more than you're outputting. You're not going to lose weight. It's just like science. We don't have to change the way things work in the world, but you can change the way you teach them and think about them and explain them and stuff. So I know that was a big question.
I got it, though.
Hit it.
First, let me say that in the traditional physical therapy world, there can still be a lot of really effective physical therapy. And there's some amazingly effective clinicians and really smart physical therapists in the traditional setting. Traditional meaning use insurance a couple times a week, like, you know, what everyone thinks about. The reason I left that setting is because it didn't feel right for me. It felt a little icky. My job was being dictated by insurance, and I wasn't able to express my practice, my way of practicing, my love for movement and teaching people in the best way that I felt. So I think there's really good physical therapists in the insurance world. I think there's really good physical therapists in the untraditional cash-based world. And I think there's really bad physical therapists in both. Just leaving the system doesn't dictate. And that's why I want people to remember too, in like your own world, in your own profession, like just because you go out and become an entrepreneur and you leave your corporate job doesn't mean you're automatically going to be really good at what you want to do. It almost means you're going to be really bad for a little while.
There's the oh man, our boy Taylor loves this. It's called the I can't remember. It's basically you start something, you know nothing.
Yeah.
You know a little bit. You think you know everything.
Yeah.
And then there's this dip in the graph where it's like the more you do it, the more you realize you know nothing.
Yeah.
Right? And you have so much to learn.
Yeah. So when I started my journey of trying to get out of the traditional physical therapy world, it was heavily driven by my desire to just get out of that world. Like, I got my CSCS while I was in school, which is a certification around strength conditioning. I started coaching CrossFit. I was like doing everything I could to try to expand my reach as a professional outside of traditional physical therapy. I love physical therapy. I love helping people through movement and improving the human experience and yada yada. But through my clinical rotations, which are basically like internships, residencies, I just felt like that world wasn't for me. And it was really motivating and a great way to drive me into where I am now. But for a long time, I was just driven by what I didn't want to do instead of what I wanted to do. And I think that is what a lot of solopreneurs or entrepreneurs are driven by. And I think it's okay.
Get me out of corporate.
Yeah, get me out of this. I want to be free. Like, I think that stuff is okay because it's motivating. It's really hot. It's ambitious. It's exciting. Like, I'm going to do my own thing. But you have to recognize that despite or within wanting to get out of something, there is going to be a need for you to really develop what you want. And we were talking about this when we were running, is like, you ultimately can't understand what it truly is you want or what you're meant to be without getting it wrong 5 times or 7 times. So throughout my journey early on, it was like, I really don't want to be a regular physical therapist. I want to be this online coach. And I started coaching and writing programs for people remotely. And it was great. But eventually I started to get the same burnt out feeling that I was getting as a physical therapist because I still wasn't fully living the life that I wanted to live or that was meant for me. But I didn't know what that was. So then I started, considering going back and working as a physical therapist because it's structure and you're around your peers and whatever. And I was like, let me just see what the cash-based physical therapy world is. Private means I don't take insurance. So I did that for a little while. And while I was working as a remote coach, I was successful enough to live comfortably. I started doing this physical therapy thing in person as well. And I was like, oh, this is it. Like, I think the excitement of like this new thing this excitement of building something, because that's what we love to do as entrepreneurs, was like, oh, this is finally it. Like, I'm going to slow down with the remote stuff and I'm going to do this physical therapy thing.
It's always finally it. I got it this time.
This is the thing I was meant to do, right? So here's phase 2 of this is what I was meant to do. And a month in, 2 months in, 3 months in, I was like, I'm getting that feeling again. Like, I'm waking up not super excited to do major parts of my day, the same as I was when I was working as a traditional PT. Caveat, you will never be 100% excited with everything you do, even if it's a job you love. And if you tell me you do, you're lying. There is some part of something you do that you don't love.
You know, like, I really want to challenge this.
I know you do, but I just watched you set up equipment for a podcast, and I know you didn't love that. That's what I'm saying. Maybe it's 0.5% of it, right? But I don't want to create this false notion that like just being an entrepreneur and finally feeling like you found your life is going to mean that 100% of things are what you love to do.
Yeah, I hear you. And there's just like, as you said that, I'm like, yeah, but I kind of did love, like, you're right. I didn't love it, but I love that this is giving me access to this conversation that I get to share with other people. So like,
yes.
But I think it's just that reframe where it's like, I have to do this. You don't have to fucking do anything. I don't have to record. You know, we could just take out our phones, open the voice memo app, and talk right into my phone. And I couldn't, and no video, and the audio doesn't sound as good. But like, I don't have to set up all this equipment. And if I wanted to not hate the process so much, then there's the other option. You don't have to do anything. But like, I get to set up this equipment because like, I have this beautiful camera. Because I was a videographer, I know how to do this shit. And like, it's available to me, and I get to put out better quality, and I get to put out Instagram clips, which means we get to cross-promote each other on our platforms and share a beautiful message and, like, all of this stuff. So, anyway, I get excited about this conversation because I hear you, and I'm like, but you don't have to fucking do anything.
That's the difference, is, like, when you're working in a space that you don't want to be, whether it's because you're working for someone else or you're working in a aspect of entrepreneurship that you don't fully love, like, you don't naturally justify the things you don't 100% love because you know it's going to bring you closer to the things you love. Like when you're working for someone else, it's like, I have to send these 10 emails and I'm going to be in the same place tomorrow. Here you're like, I have to set up this podcast, but it's bringing me so much potential, more enjoyment. And that's what I mean. It's like when you get to that point where you feel like maybe you shouldn't have done this, like taking that leap, you have to remember that you have so much potential to create enjoyment for yourself. In order to do that, you have to do some things that you don't 100% enjoy. And I don't mean you have to do things you dislike, but I am a remote coach, a physical therapist. My entire job, my life is surrounded around human movement. I don't love writing programs. I don't love it. And when I have 7 people that need a new phase of training, like I put off sitting down to write the programs. But I do love being really intricate and tailoring a program to that person. And I love the excitement of like in a week when that person's like, this is fucking awesome. I feel so strong. Like I know what it's going to bring for me, so I can justify the things that I don't love. But I do recognize that even though I'm in a space where I really am satisfied, I was telling you this earlier, there are still things that I like know that I am not 100% excited about.
So I wonder if
here's Matt.
Yeah. Well, okay. Is there a way to love it?
Yes. And
so
I've been slowly working towards that.
You think that for this life, I have to program for people I hate programming. And you think the way to program is to sit in your computer and, you know, program out for a month or 12 weeks for a person, and you're doing it by yourself. And it's like, you told me on a run you love teaching. It's like, is there a way where you could teach someone how to program for you, and all you have to do is sit there and talk, and they sit on the computer and fill out an Excel spreadsheet or True Coach or whatever and fill it out, and all you have to do is go, yeah, put this in, yeah, 5 squats, oh yeah, this person has this, and then you're teaching them, they're learning, and soon enough, you don't have to do any of it because you've taught them how to do it, and now they're programming for you. I just wonder if there are ways, like, you don't have to, like, we'll go to content, that's my thing, right? You don't have to make content, but you want your business to grow. And now, Tyler, what you tell me is that, like, yeah, but you get to make content, even if you hate it, because it will help you get more clients, because you love coaching, and it's going to grow your business and make you money, blah, 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 blah. I'm saying you don't have to make content, but if you think that's an option for you to build a business you want, how can you make content so fucking fun? Mm-hmm. Maybe you only podcast. Podcasting is content, by the way. It's not just fucking reels on Instagram. emails you love writing, build your email list, right? And guess what? You know what James Clear does? Not a single fucking video. It's all, his 3, 2, 1. It's like text.
Oh yeah.
Right? And he pulls things from his book. Like, go write a fucking book.
Yeah.
Only put text. Anything works. You think I have to do it this way because this is how this person does it, or this is how it's been done in the past, or this is how everyone does it. Everyone programs alone and blah, blah. And I'm saying bullshit. And I think you can find a way to love it. And yeah, so maybe it's podcasting and setting up your fucking iPhone. iPhone's good enough.
It is good enough.
Right? And you can record that and chop that up and make it content.
Here's another layer, because we were leaning into this discomfort thing, maybe it's just me projecting onto other entrepreneurs, but when I got into this space, I was really excited about having the freedom to do what I want in life, do what I want in working, and make everything super fun. And maybe what I'm saying in terms of discomfort is not that you have to do uncomfortable things as part of your job, but you have to be okay with being uncomfortable.
I agree.
The reason you found this space of content creation that you really enjoy, like for me, I started learning that like just recording a 5-minute video and putting it on my newsletter was way more fun for me than writing a newsletter. So I'll write like 200 words and then I'll put a video. And I was like, holy shit, I just broke the code.
You figured out how to do it fun for you.
But I had to go through the 3 weeks or 3 months or 3 years of trying to figure that out. So it wasn't necessarily that I need to write.
I agree. Right?
Like,
yeah.
What I'm saying is, if you're in a space, speaking to someone who's listening, if you're in a space where you're just unsure if you made the right choice in doing this thing or taking on this new mission of content or whatever it might be, like just hold on a little bit longer and embrace this ability to learn and fail and struggle a little bit with very little consequences. Because when you were learning how to do a TPS report when you were working in the corporate world, there was a lot of consequences and there was not much return other than maybe a 7-cent, increase in your pay in a year. Now, the consequences are a little bit heavier, but the reward is so much greater. Like, you can have a great life and you can find exactly the type of content you want to create and exactly the job you want to do, but recognize that there will be some.
I like what you said about just being comfortable with things getting difficult.
Mm-hmm.
I think the problem is that we think things have to be hard.
Mm.
And this is new for me, by the way. I'm not like this is something I've been working through and realizing like it's gonna fucking get hard anyway, right? We're gonna do stuff that we think is the solution, that we think we're gonna love. This is what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
And then realize we don't love it.
Mm-hmm.
And now is your opportunity to go, oh, sick. Now I realize that that's not it. How can this be easier? How can this be more fun? Instead of writing a newsletter, why don't I just record a 5-minute video? Okay, sick. But in that journey to getting to the thing you truly love, you thought this was going to be the thing you loved, right? And realizing that life is it's going to be hard. You're going to face challenges. You don't have to go seek them. You don't have to go, I'm doing that. Like, I'm running 100 miles because I grow in the challenges. That's
fine, but
I'm actually running 100 miles because I fucking love running, and this is the next evolution. And guess what? Shit's going to get hard along the way. I don't need to what I would rather do is say, I'm going to run 100 miles, and it's going to be so fun. I'm never going to roll an ankle. I'm going to feel fresh every fucking day. I'm going to make sure, I drink my fluids and eat, and I'm going to, it's all going to be fucking awesome.
If
Guess
you do
what?
roll
Of
an
course.
ankle.
Of course I won't. I roll ankles so much, dude.
Well, you got someone you could talk to.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah. I just grit my teeth and bear through it. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. I mean, I felt that way for a while. Like, I was guilty about having an easy day or an easy life. Like,
Sunk cost bias.
Sunk cost bias. Well,
we were talking about this on the run, by the way.
Part of my guilt
it hit me just
was
now.
not using my doctorate degree to its max, aka treating 40 hours a week in a clinical setting. I felt like I needed to do physical therapy things to take advantage of my physical therapy degree that cost $155,000.
Because why? Because that's what everyone does?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I also found myself sometimes feeling guilty because I'm not, learning something new on YouTube or writing an extra newsletter or digging into this new category of content that I haven't dug into. And then sometimes I stop myself and I'm like, dude, you purposefully built this life so that you could have this freedom. I mean, I go for 3-hour runs on a random Thursday. I can work for 3 hours and then read a book for an hour. But within that, there are times when I'm so guilty for not working hard.
Mm-hmm.
And we were talking about, there have been times where I just had my head down, working super long hours and feeling guilty for doing that, spending a little bit less time with my fiance and not walking the dogs as much. But both of those things will happen, and it's okay for those things to happen as long as you are maintaining some level of like introspection of like, this can't happen forever.
Or just clarity, communication.
Yeah.
Like if you're by yourself, fucking send it. And the only problem is your relationship, the thing, right? We were talking about that, like you blaming yourself for not working. It's not the working, it's the you blaming yourself for working.
Yeah.
So just let yourself work. If you love fucking, like I'm growing this membership, building this membership, and instead of doing the spiritual entrepreneur thing, which is wake up and meditate and journal and go for my walk and have my morning routine, which I like doing.
And having your greens powder.
Yeah. But instead, I'm like, I don't feel like it right now. I feel like waking up at 6 a.m. before the sun gets over the mountains in Breckenridge. It's still fucking dark. And I make my coffee. And I go right into work because it's fun. The problem is when I go, yeah, but Huberman says the first thing you should do is get sunshine and not have coffee for the first 90 minutes. And he's done all the studies. He's got the Huberman lab. And then I start shaming myself for not doing the healthiest thing. That's the problem, is the shame and the blame and all that stuff, right? So instead, who fucking said, Huberman, fuck off, dude. I am building right now. I want to build. This is what's most fun for me. And so it's being crystal clear on what you want and stop shaming yourself. And there's a lot of shit that's behind that, which we won't get into. But, like, just do what you love. And then, like, and then communicate. Like, Natalie, I'm building this thing. Date nights are cut down to this. Or, like, I won't be available to hang out and watch a movie tonight till 8 p.m. Or, like, can you walk the dog a little bit more because I'm just fucking over here writing the best fucking emails of my life and I want to write 5 more and I don't want to get up from my desk. Do you mind walking Telly,
And communicate with yourself. It's like, I'm trying to build this thing and I know I need more reach. And right now I don't love creating reels. And what you're saying is like, maybe reels aren't going to be your thing, but like you have to be okay with trying reels for 5 weeks. And you have to communicate with yourself that this is something I need to do 3 days a week or 1 day a week or every day for the next 5 weeks in order to see if there's an ROI here. But you can't be unrealistic and say, I don't like doing this thing, so I'm just going to not do it at all.
Yes. I agree. I think it's going back, like, my listeners, I think a lot of us, like, I love learning, right?
Yeah.
Well, here's an opportunity for you to learn. What reels do you like making? You don't have to talk to the camera. You can film the fucking leaves blowing and write a 1-sentence thing that says 5 ways to blah, 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 and then put in the caption. Like, there's endless ways to be creative, and this is what I want to inform people, like, I'm not creative. Fucking bullshit.
Yeah.
You stand in the shower, you get a download. That's creativity, right? You're an entrepreneur. You built a business out of fucking thin air. You're creative.
Mm-hmm.
Stop telling yourself you're not.
You're not creative in the way that you think you have to be.
Yeah, there you go. And you could be in, like, maybe creative is like building spreadsheets. It's I heard a podcast interview this woman who was like the Excel queen, and she was early on TikTok. So she'd like dance and do parodies about like Excel spreadsheets. Fucking lame, but
someone somewhere is gonna be
millions of followers.
Yeah.
And she was early, so great, but like she found her way of doing it, and it's like you can do it however you want, but you think you can't.
That's very paralyzing. I mean, I spent a long time thinking I had to do things a certain way, especially when it came to content. Like people in the certain space, there's going to be the titans of that space that do content a certain way, and it's successful for them. And if you put out enough of anything, it's going to be moderately successful. And I spent a long time like thinking that's how I had to do it, and I didn't really love that. Like I was pumping out content. There was a time for like 6 months I was putting 2 pieces of content out a day.
I think I remember you were all over my feed.
Bro, I was making so much content, but like there wasn't much more happening for my business.
Yeah. People think you're successful now because you pump out content, followers are growing.
Yeah, they're like, oh, dude, you look like you're crushing it. I'm like, no, I'm just crushing it at freaking recording myself.
I am crushing. Yeah, I am crushing it.
I'm crushing
Believe that.
Yeah, crushing my personal time.
Yeah. Okay. I want to go back to, I just want to share a bit about, like, I think a lot of people might have this view around physical therapists, and it's not fair, right? A girl gets dumped by a piece of shit guy. All guys are evil.
Mm-hmm.
No, 4 billion guys are not evil, right? But we generalize, and that's what we do. I really want to talk about, I just think it's fascinating. We were talking about in your kitchen, the way you approach some clients of like, from a more mindset perspective, and I don't know if you even really tell them this stuff, but it's like, I remember when I was a CrossFit coach and I was listening to a lot more like fitness podcasts and stuff, and I don't remember who said this, but basically it was like, everyone knows the guy in the gym who's like got a bad back. I have a bad back. That's their identity.
Yep.
Right? And I remember being like, no, you don't. I remember hearing, you don't have a bad back. I have a healing back, right? Language, super important. Our boy Taylor loves this shit. Language dictates your life and your thoughts, and it creates your reality. And it's like, I have a bad back, then that's your identity. That's who you are. So you go to heal it. You don't actually want to heal it because that would remove your identity.
Yeah.
And this was a big conversation we were kind of having of how you work with clients, of like this subtle, like and the placebo effect, and like this subtle things you work with people. Like, sure, you're a great, you can think of all these great movements to help people get stronger and heal pain, but it's deeper than that, it sounds like, in the way you work with people.
Yeah, there is so much power in an effective program and an effective corrective exercise and a really thorough assessment from a movement standpoint. But I think when someone has been dealing with something for long enough, and nowadays, even if it's been a very short time that they've been injured, we share so much that something can quickly become part of our identity within like 2 days. If you hurt your knee and you talk about hurting your knee 3 times in your story, it becomes part of what people think of you, at least for a little bit. So when people come to me with a thing that's been holding them back or something they need to rehab, like, I have learned to recognize that that is potentially part of who they identify themselves as. I am this person with a hurt back. Now, some people do it, and as it gets better, they're really happy that that's leaving their identity, and things just kind of coast. And we don't have to get really intrinsic about it. But there are some people that I've worked with that hold their issue, their condition, their injury so close to their identity that when they start to feel it getting better, aka their back pain is going away, it's almost like their subconscious wants to bring it back out. Like, I'm seeing the data. Their sleep has been great. Their nutrition has been great. They're rating it an 8 out of 10 every week. But we go 3 weeks into their starting to really feel good with a deadlift, and then all of a sudden they're like, it just doesn't feel good. And they have a tough time describing why, but they just tell me that it's not feeling good. And those are the times when I'm like, I think what's happening, thinking to myself, I think what's happening is your subconscious is fearful of letting this go because you don't know how else you are going to identify yourself as, what else you can talk to people, how are you going to relate with people, what is it going to make you who you are. And what I was telling you when we were chatting was like, some of it is me teaching that person to give themselves permission to let the thing heal. Giving them validation that what they are feeling is real, but it's not necessarily as real as they think. Meaning, if you feel like you have back pain and you bending over is going to hurt your back, that's real. You feel that. But the mechanism that you think is causing pain is not what is actually causing pain. And the rhetoric of like, you don't have a hurt back, you have a healing back is wonderful. So maybe rhetoric isn't the right term, but that's a wonderful thing to do. But when you say that to someone who has had back pain for 3 years, it's going to piss them off.
Yeah.
Because they're going to think like, you have no idea what I'm feeling, right? It's like, you're not struggling with making content. You're just learning how to make content. Fuck you. This is a struggle, right? I'm struggling. You don't know what I'm going through. So there's a bit of like validation. Yeah, you have back pain, but I want to show you how you are all also having this healing situation. I want to show you how the pain that you are experiencing isn't quite coming from the same sources that you think it is. I want to give you proof that there's ways to improve it while, still being this person with back pain. That's okay. You can be that person. I am that person. I'm not in back pain anymore. I share one story a week about how I spent 4 years in back pain. But it's changed. How I talk about it has changed. So, I think there's a mix of like me validating, acknowledging it, letting them understand that I understand, so they don't feel threatened that I'm taking something from them. I'm allowing them to get rid of it themselves.
Yeah, I mean, you're allowing people to feel seen, heard, and understood.
Yeah.
Compared to the CrossFit coach who's like, hey, man, just say I have a healing back. You're fine. It's like, fuck you, and not feeling hurt anymore. you know? And so it's a mixture of allowing them to feel seen and heard, then empowering them to like, let's move through this effectively. You're giving me some, I'm just sitting over here like, I got great content ideas for myself of how I talk about helping people feel seen more.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm like, I feel like I've been slacking on that lately. How can I help people? How can I empathize with people more? You know, they look at me and see the content is easy for you, you know, and like, yeah, you can get on camera and stuff. And like, actually, that's sometimes maybe I don't give myself enough credit, but post on YouTube and I share with people like, this scared the fuck out of me. And I forgot what it was like to be scared to make content, you know? So I shared that. Like, it's not just easy for me to get on YouTube. That was frightening, but I did it anyway, you know? And anyway, so I just appreciate that conversation. I'm so curious then, like, I really want to know what that looks like. Like, how do you allow people to feel seen in an instance? Like, if we use the back example, I have low back pain, and they come to you and it's like, it's not feeling good. And you're like, shut the fuck up. It's fine.
Yeah.
Do these exercises.
I think I've learned to put more space between when they say something or type something and I respond. So giving myself more time to think about what they're actually saying. And maybe they're saying I have back pain, but maybe what they're really saying is like, I'm unhappy with the way I'm doing this thing right now, or I'm unhappy with the movements that you have selected. And it's not always that, right? Sometimes they literally just have a hurt back.
Yeah.
And then I also just been asking more questions. You know, instead of coming up with a solution, as a green physical therapist, our like favorite thing to do is come up with solutions. Like, oh, your back hurts. Let me give you a different deadlift. Let me give you a different this. Let me give you a corrective exercise. And now I just ask more questions. Like, okay, why do you think you are having an increase in back pain right now? Or, oh, my back hurts. And I'll be like, okay, your back hurts, but is it hurting more or less or the same as it did last week? Because like maybe they're just saying it, and maybe they need to realize it's just the same and they're stressed out from life.
They need to validate hiring you, or yeah.
Yeah.
So many things, yeah.
So that's a big thing, is like asking more questions. And instead of trying to teach people by telling, I've been trying to do more of teach people by allowing themselves to tell themselves.
Dude, that's
asking suggestive questions to get them to come to the conclusions by themselves. And yeah, maybe I'm like doing some educating and helping them understand the science of it. But it's like, if I'm going to tell you, I'm just the same as everyone else has already been freaking telling you.
Yeah, right. They could have Googled all this shit, right? So I think that's one of the biggest things I learned as a coach. We were talking about my TikTok. I was like, you got these bookmarks or these saves on these random TikTok videos from like a year ago. And one was the book, The Coaching Habit by Michael Bungay-Stainer. And he has this quote I pulled up so I could nail it. He says, even though we don't really know what the issue is, we're quite sure we've got the answer they need. This book is all about asking questions. That's all it is. It's like these 6 questions you can, and like bonus questions. It kind of breaks down these questions you can ask. But when I learned how to ask questions and stop giving solutions all the time and allow my client to probably come up with the answer themselves, or if not, yes, then there's a time to educate and give an answer. But for the most part, people have answers and they want to feel seen. And then, yes, they can come like, my back hurts. And then you go, it's probably the deadlifts. Shit. We're going to reduce the weight. It's like, that's not the fucking problem.
No.
You know? And so you're giving the solution. You don't know the answer. One of my favorite quotes that I have condensed and basically made my own is, when you give a man an answer, all you give him is an answer. When you ask a man a question, he goes hunting for the answer. The harder the question, the harder the hunt. The harder the hunt, the more valuable the answer. And so when you ask people questions, they go looking for the answer themselves, right? They actually learn something compared to just telling someone something. And it's like, okay, great, see ya, right? We were talking about my, like, what people, if they've been listening, they know my guy Flynn Skidmore, because I talk about him a bunch. And I was like, what business decision? Should I be a speaker? Should I build this membership? All I wanted him to say was like, just to tell me what to do. He wouldn't do that. And he would like ask questions, give me some advice. And I got really introspective and really tried to understand what I wanted to create. What do I want my life to look like? And so I chose the membership. And I thank God I did, because it was so great. But if he just told me, go be a speaker, it would have been probably the wrong thing. But I knew what I wanted, right? And I just had to sit with it and be asked these good questions to uncover what I truly wanted. And that gave me the space to uncover my own answer. And now I'm more empowered in moving forward, building the membership, because I chose it. Fuck yeah, let's go.
It's more powerful.
Right? If I was told, either one, if I was told go be a speaker, go build a membership, I would have been like, all right, well, Flynn said to do it, so yeah, I'm doing it. I hope it's right.
Yeah. Yeah, when there's a level of accountability that's I don't want to say inevitable with coaching, but is expected. Like, I'm going to hold you accountable because I am your coach, and I'm going to tell you to do things. And I think there's some level of that that's maybe needed in the beginning or needed at certain times when someone's kind of like really wavering. But when you yourself get used to telling, and when the person gets used to just listening, they're just falling into the same situation that they were in, probably similar to how they wanted to get out of it before. So like, asking more questions, has made me such a better coach because I don't assume anymore. Like, I used to so quickly assume that the problem they were telling me during their message, and we've already been working together for 3 months, was because of X, Y, or Z. And so many times I've been wrong now. And I still assume, but now I just ask and wait. I wait a day after I ask them the question for them to answer. And we have so much more productive questions because I didn't have to spend a half an hour adjusting the program because it wasn't within the program.
Yeah.
And sometimes it is, but I need to understand more. And it's made me an incredibly better salesman because I give more space for that person to tell me what they want, what their problem is, what's worked for them before, what they liked about the previous coaches they worked with, what they didn't like, instead of me trying to automatically either give them little tidbits, gems, solutions during the sales call, or like telling them what I do. It's like, maybe they don't give a shit about monthly calls, and I'm like selling them this, you get monthly calls with your programming. Like, I have no idea what part of this you're going to want until I ask you enough about what your problem is. And then I can sell you at the end of the conversation if it makes the most sense. Mm-hmm. And then it's not even selling. I'm literally telling you what I'm convicted that I believe you need. It goes from selling to, this is my legitimate recommendation for you. I think you need to work with me as your coach because the problem you have, I feel very strongly in the fact that we can successfully work to solve this. Instead of, I'm assuming I know what your problem's about, and I just really want this sale.
Yeah, dude, right. And it's like they felt seen and heard because you go, here's what you said. Here's what you said. Here's what I do. You're welcome. Let's go.
I'm just reframing how I used to say, oh, you get these weekly check-ins and you get these monthly calls and you have this program that's tailored to you, to, oh, hey, earlier in the conversation you had said that you really loved the accountability you had with the coach, but there wasn't a lot of communication. So we have these weekly check-ins. I already would have said that.
Yeah.
But it made sense to them, and it makes sense for me to offer that to them because there's plenty of times I've had clients where I don't offer 30% of my standard offer because they don't care. It doesn't mean anything to them.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I've had calls, when it's like and if I don't do that earlier on in my career, I fucking love sales because it's a coaching call. Like, you're just asking questions. They get to talk. They feel seen, and you're like, all right, now at the end, here's what I do. Ultimately, like, even if they say no, if you ask great questions, they're thinking about you for a week.
You got them.
Yeah, they're like, fuck, like, oh my God.
That's another growth
and that's
part
great,
of
and that's
being
beautiful.
a coach is like an entrepreneur is like, I don't necessarily fight hard for a sale during a sales call anymore because I know if vibes are right and I actually feel convicted enough about helping this person, it will come through the conversation enough that even if they say no then, and I maybe didn't work through their objections correctly, I still got them.
Objections are just more questions.
Right. Like, I know that even if it wasn't necessarily a sale, I didn't close.
Yeah.
If it went well enough, I know they're going to hit me in a week.
Yeah.
Or 3 months.
Yeah.
Maybe they just need more time.
And that's the, just because our boy Taylor, he taught me this way back, but he oftentimes no is just a not yet.
Almost always.
Almost always. If they got on a call, they want to do it.
Yeah, they took action.
And it's just a not yet. And if you maintain that relationship, they'll be back. But if you're like, fuck that person, and you let them go, you laughing because I'm trying to sell Tyler right now to work with me.
I'm just thinking like,
it's the only reason why we're doing this.
15 years from now, it'll be like, that guy's still a not yet.
Yeah. He's the best man at my wedding, but
here we are in October.
It's all
in
just
June when you and I talked, I said I need to wait till September to get some things in order, and I mean it. I do. I've been saving this stuff, but it was just funny when you said that. I was like, I'm the not yet for Matt.
It's funny that's happened a few times. Like on a run, I'm like, doing this intentionally at all. But it's on the top of your mind, so
Yeah.
I got him hooked, everybody. All right. Something I talk to, like in my messaging, I really want people to build a lifetime brand. You talked about this with including more of your personality. And what I want people to do is, include more of themselves. So if all of a sudden, if I was like, I'm a dog trainer now, they'd be like, saw that coming because he like makes out with Telly, once a week on his Instagram stories. Like, yeah, we probably knew he was gonna, be a dog trainer. That's not at all in my eyes, in my sight or vision, by the way. That will never happen, probably.
Yeah, we'll see.
Never say never. But like, you could see it coming, right? You know about me. A better example would be like if I was like a running coach. I'm going to help you run your first ultra. You'd be like, oh, yeah, no shit. He ran a 40 mile. He's training for 100. Kind of saw that coming. It's a mindset thing, whatever. So you've been this strength guy, physical therapist, and now you're doing the running. I want to talk about that experience for you and what that has been like of that identity for you and a bit of the shift and putting more running out there.
Yeah. I was pretty fearful that it would hurt my identity in the beginning because I wasn't looking at it from the right light. I am a stronger dude. I've always been a little bit bigger than most people from a weight perspective, maybe not muscular, right? But I am like that physical therapist who's like, oh, he lifts heavy, he's strong, he's a power lift, football player, like, and here I am like training for a marathon, It's pretty polarizing in some ways. And it freaked me out. Like, I don't know how much I want to share about this. I don't even know if I want to do it because it is part of my life and I like sharing my life. But I have just like kind of forced myself or allowed myself to just share it because I think there's so many congruencies between training for a marathon, but also like training for strength and like going through difficult things. And, sharing it has been a huge joy for me. It's actually helped carry me through some of the tougher parts of the running prep because I like to run now. I like training for a marathon. And as someone who shares a lot of their life, I think it's valuable for people to see the crappy parts of it and how much I like it. And the fact that I have somewhat changed my identity by liking running now. And it's okay to change your identity and it's okay to do both of these things. And, when someone's like fearful about messing with their identity because they're going to start sharing something new, my thought, I can't help but think like at some point, this wasn't your identity. You weren't the content
the one
guy.
You're clinging to now. Yeah.
Like at some point you had to create this. And if your identity, your brand, I come from the school of thought that like your brand is you. And I don't like having two different Instagram pages, one for your business and one for you, because I think there's so much value in sharing you. But you changing a habit or you changing a love or you changing where you live is part of your identity, which means it is part of your brand. Simply the fact that it is something you are doing makes it part of your brand. So like you said, you could be the dog training guy in 5 years and no one's going to remember that you weren't the dog training guy. Maybe it's a little resistant at first. I was a marathon guy. People were probably like, who the fuck is he? Think he's doing like running marathons. Like, stay in your lane, bro. But now 7 months later, people are asking me how to run and what shoes to wear and whatever. Not because they think I'm this great runner, but because they trust me and my knowledge in other areas, and they see that I've put a lot of conviction and work and consistency into this new thing, and those things just start to meld into each other. Now I'm like the strong physical therapist who helps people get out of pain, but also runs a lot. So like none of it matters. Like
well, even like the I tell people like lean into one thing, and so for me, it's been marketing compared to sales, niching down, offer creation, blah blah blah, all this stuff. But even a month ago, I was like, someone reached out. I was like, I need help with my offer. I need to create like a high ticket offer. I want to be a better coach. Blah blah. They didn't come to me for marketing, but they can see like I have good offers. They can see these other parts of it. So yeah, I love that. So
there was also the running was very heavily fueled by an intrinsic thing, which just made me, quite frankly, not give a shit.
Tell me more. You got the mustache on your hat.
Yeah, I wish I still had the mustache. So the New York City Marathon is in November, running that. A buddy convinced me to run the marathon, but you can't get into the New York City Marathon unless you run with a philanthropy, fundraising organization. So one of my buddies reached out to me and said, hey, dude, look at this, something you never thought I would do, which was sign up for New York City Marathon. And I was like, man, that would be fun to do. Like, I need to know what it's like for people to run a marathon because I coach a lot of people who run marathons. I don't coach them with running, but I coach them with training, and I need to know what life is like when you're juggling 50 miles a week. So I was like, that was the first thought. And then you have to get into the New York City Marathon either through performance, like you've run 9 races, or you get in by going with a fundraising organization or philanthropy. So I was scrolling through and I found Movember. And everyone, or most people who know of Movember, know them for their testicular cancer, prostate cancer mission. Guys grow mustaches. They raise money for men's health, physical health. But they also have a men's mental health wing of their mission. And it's around bringing more awareness to the mental health that men struggle with and the suicide rate in men, and giving both the actual men, but their family members, resources to start conversations, push them to talk to professionals, whatever. And I was like, okay, this sounds great. And I love men's Movember. I love men's health. So let's do it. Well, you had to write an essay. You had to write an application to say why it's valuable to do. And I'll be honest, like, I didn't have a reason at the moment. I didn't think I did. So I started writing about my father. And you guys don't know, I lost my father in 2020. And he died somewhat insidiously, meaning we don't know the true cause physically. We don't know the mechanism that killed him. But I truly believe that he died from mental health, struggling with mental health. He had some level of underlying depression and anxiety surrounded around his business and his own self-worth. And he was an alcoholic, straight up, quite frank. He was a highly functioning alcoholic, became slowly less functioning. And COVID, coming with the decline in his business, decline in socialization, ultimately a decline in activity because it was just a lot less working, more sitting, feeling like he was a kind of a failure. My parents were splitting up, and him and, one of his family members hadn't talked for 3 years. Someone in our immediate family. That's a lot. And I think truly, I believe in myself, in my heart, I tell myself that he lost his life to mental health. I don't think he actively took his own life. I think he let his life go. And as I'm writing about men's mental health and this stuff is coming out, I'm like, fuck. Like, I didn't realize this was in here. And obviously there's some level of mental health that I've been struggling with because I've been suppressing this and kind of ignoring it. And I have random days where it just kind of explodes. And I'm like, struggling. So I wrote this essay and they were like, yeah, you're in. And I was like, oh, crap. I have to talk about this.
Yeah.
And I love talking about stuff. I love challenges. And I was nervous, and I consulted with my mom and my sister to make sure that they were okay. And they were very okay with it, sharing the story. So over the last 7 months, I've just been using the running to share the story of my father and mental health and my own mental health. And it's been a nice way to kind of pull me through changing my identity as a runner, but also a nice way to help other people understand how to better handle mental health issues, whether it's their own or their family members. Because a major issue for me was I didn't know what to do. I have a doctorate in medicine, which somewhat makes us good at handling people's issues. And I could talk to my father, but he was 53 years old. I'm his son. How much am I going to tell him, right? How many times can I tell him that he needs to do this or that, or he should try this or that? He's going to listen. At some point, I needed to turn him in another direction. I needed to say something differently to help him talk to someone, but I didn't know how to do that. I didn't know how to do that. But I like Movember because they have a site with all these resources. You can send someone a number. You can talk to them. They have these pages that tell you how to start a conversation, how to talk to someone. So it was a whirlwind of things that got me to do this, and I never expected any of it. But it's been incredibly fun. Sounds weird to say. It's been a learning journey for me, recognizing how much I actually struggle with mental health. Struggle, I put that in quotations, or how much mental health rockiness I've dealt with. And like I said, it's been a good way to slightly, I guess, low-key change my identity as someone who runs now and who helps people with mental health in some weird way.
Yeah. Why do you put struggle in quotes?
I think because I'm comparing myself to people who are in a much worse place or struggling heavier with their own mental health. So, I recognize that it was inappropriate to put struggle in quotes because we all have struggling is a spectrum.
I think that's maybe part of the problem is people putting struggle in quotes for themselves because other people are struggling worse.
Which means
so they don't
I can't say I'm
ask
struggling.
for help. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's for sure. I mean, my father's tendencies are within me. I am him to some degree, right? And that's been a great way for me to talk about the things that he didn't do or did do or struggled with. In reality, I'm talking about myself and forcing me to talk about my downfalls in terms of dealing with my own mental struggles has been very helpful to actually deal with my own mental struggles. And it's made me better at being a coach and like an entrepreneur because I have better introspection on my own self, which gives me better ability to see and empathize with other people. Not that I wasn't a good empathizer before, but I think I'm better now. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't doubt that.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are some of these areas you feel you struggle with most?
In terms of my mental health?
Yeah.
One, the first and foremost is being okay with being mentally unstable or affected. You know, being okay with having parts of my own mental fortitude that aren't 100%. Having some level of low-key depression at times that, you know, it's either triggered by this or that, and being okay with telling other people, being okay with letting people see that. Maybe that's what I really mean, right? Letting people that I feel I need to be seen as a strong, powerful person see the struggles with that I have with mental health, and allowing myself to receive help from them. Because that was a major issue of my father's, was like, he is the patriarch, proverbial patriarch of the family. I'm supposed to be strong. I started this business. Like, I don't want to fail at this. I can't take help from my 27-year-old son. So that's been something for me, is like allowing myself to be seen in that light and allowing myself to receive help is something I definitely didn't want to do. Yeah, I would say that's the biggest one.
Yeah. I think that's beautiful because it's hard, especially as we grow up and learn by watching our fathers. Like, I've only ever seen my dad cry, I want to say twice, but I can't remember the second time. But I know the one time was when we were all in the living room. I was probably like 11. I don't remember when my grandfather passed, but he got a call from the doctor. Your dad's dead. And my dad cried. That was it. And so I never was told, boys don't cry. I was never told that. But I watched my father
Never cry.
Yeah. And never really have these deeper conversations. And so I didn't learn how to do that, right? So now I have to learn how to do that and how to feel safe doing that. And it's difficult. It's really hard. And if you could go back, you know, what would you do differently with your dad and seeing him struggle?
Man, if I could go back at some point during his like really tough years, I think I would, first of all, I would have started the conversations a lot sooner. There was clearly multiple months or years where we all recognized that he wasn't 100% great, right? The classic mom dies and then dad dies a couple years later. That typically puts people in a weird spot. And especially when you're a parent and then your parents die, it's like this dichotomy of I am a child and I lost my parents, but I also am a parent and a husband, and I need to like be that person too. We all saw it. So I think it would have been tactfully starting conversations a bit sooner so that we could have gotten through the resistant phase a little bit easier. And then the big thing is really like understanding the possible resources that there were. I didn't know anything other to do than to just talk to him and be like, oh, you need to go find help. Like, what does that fucking mean? Go find help. Go to your primary care physician. He hated going to the doctors. So that was just probably making it worse. And it made him not want to show it even more, not want to talk about his issues because he hates going to the doctors. And anytime he showed any sort of issue, it was just like, oh, go to the doctors. No, all right, so then none of you are going to see it.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, I don't know if there was much I could have done differently. So it's tough for me to say what I would have done differently.
Yeah.
But I think the better question is like, what am I doing now to prevent that happening for myself? And I think part of it right now is for me just talking about it. Because in talking about it, I'm realizing things in him that are in me that I can learn to improve. And don't get me wrong, I love what he has given me, right? The hard work, the passion, the emotion, whatever it may be, like that is who I am. But there are parts of it that are maybe too strong or a little too light that I can try to make stronger or make a little weaker so that I am a better safer from facing what he faced.
Yeah, I think that's really important. I know that I struggle with both my parents and bringing up certain topics where I want them to be healthier physically, mentally, in many ways. And I'll do it next Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
And it might not be in next Christmas, but it's like, damn, these conversations are hard.
I will tell you, and this sounds really cliche, but that conversation is way easier than the conversation you're going to have with yourself and with that dead person about what you should have been saying to them. It sucks to get to the conversation, but there's no better feeling than being on the back end of that conversation, happy that you did it. Like, I just had a conversation with my fiance the other day about something I wasn't proud of, and she's a bit of an introvert, so she didn't really say anything about it, and I gave her permission to be upset and talk about it, and I felt so good, but I had been putting that conversation off for 3 months, and I didn't want to go to our engagement photos and look at those photos for the rest of my life knowing that there was something under there.
Wow.
And that is the type of thing that that has changed me from my father's death. It's like, that would have never happened.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's amazing. I mean, as I was saying that, I was thinking about, my relationship with Natalie as well, and the conversations that I put off because it seems so much harder. But it always ends up being better, even if
Way better. Even if there's a reverb.
Even coming from a place like, this is how I'm feeling. Like, this isn't really about you. Like, I think with a parent, like, I love you. I want to be more connected, and I want you to be around for my grandkids. And, like, because you've loved me so much, I want you to love my grandkids so much. I don't have any, right?
Yeah.
And so I just, like, sharing what I would, like, I'm not blaming you for these things. Like, I just love you, And
Yeah.
I think that's the same. And so that's just what I think, like, same thing with a relationship. Like, this isn't because I hate you or anything. It's because, like, I love you so much, and I think we can, like, solve this together. I think this will make us more connected, and that's what I truly want. So I just have to share this. And then however they take it, like, I think that's their journey for themselves to heal themselves, to hopefully be introspective and see where they can grow through that.
Yeah. And, I think there is some level that you have to do it for yourself.
Yeah.
Because if you are continuing to battle the feeling of not saying it, you're going to continue to not be as good of a person for them, whether it's the son or the husband or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, do it for yourself and do it for them. But, like, the feeling that you have of holding back saying something is far better than the feeling you're going to have wishing you said something.
Yeah. Something I realized too, and to kind of wrap up here, like, it is to heal myself, right? When I have these, like, we'll take Natalie, and I've shared this on a podcast episode previously, but when I have these tough conversations with her, because I've been wounded and I feel like that I can't speak my needs. And if I don't speak my needs, then we are more disconnected, and there might be resentment, and then we break up one day, right? And then guess what? I'm going to go find another relationship.
Do the same thing.
Do the same thing and not speak my needs. I'm going to find another perfect girl, right? Not speak my needs, and then resentment, and then we're going to break up. So really we get to heal ourselves. And if it's this, like, you're probably not going to find the best way to say it, just say it.
Yeah, you're never going to find the best way to say it. Yeah. Not unless you say it a couple times.
Like, I've done that, and then Natalie cries, and I've upset her, but turns out we get closer.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it always builds a deeper connection, and it's a beautiful thing. So thanks for sharing all of that.
Yeah.
I think we can put maybe some resources in the show notes as well.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
And yeah, man, I appreciate your time. I'm excited. We're having a sleepover tonight.
Sleepover, boys' weekend.
Boys' weekend. Girls out of town. I left Natalie up in Breckenridge.
Steaks.
We're going to make some content. We're going to make some steaks. It's going to be a good time. Where can people find you? What do you got? What do you have going on?
The best place to find me is on Instagram. So we'll link that, but it's just tylerclacy.dpt. I do have a website which shares what I do. I've got some content on YouTube, but the best place where you're going to find the most learning and me most commonly is Instagram.
Yeah, it's fun being on content. We go back and forth too. And I had the one video where I put my coffee in a coffee maker, and then I took the coffee mug out, but it was actually a seltzer. Didn't you see that comment? And you're like, we're just gonna, like, put little gems, like you eating an onion, but, like, not talking about you eating an onion.
Who's gonna do it?
We're just gonna, like, hide little, Easter eggs in our content. We should lead into that
Makes
a little more. It's super fun, yeah. But it's a good time, and I love you, dude, and I appreciate everything you shared.
This was fun. Thanks.
Yeah. Until next time, everybody, peace out.